She had been invisible her whole life. That was the thing about being poor, about being no one. People looked through you like you were made of smoke. Vera had scrubbed tankards at the Hollow Stag since she was 14, serving drunks and dodging wandering hands, dreaming of nothing because dreams cost more than she could afford. So when the door crashed open that night, and every man in the tavern dropped to their knees like puppets with cut strings, Vera didn't understand. She was still holding a pitcher of ale, still standing, still looking directly at the man in the doorway. He was massive, dark armor forged from shadow, eyes the color of molten amber that swept the room and stopped, completely stopped on her. "Kneel!" someone hissed. "That's the Alpha King Draveth of House Valorian. Kneel or die." But Vera's knees wouldn't bend. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the strange heat flooding her chest. She stared back at the most feared ruler in all of Valdros, the man whose wars had reshaped the continent, whose enemies hung from the walls of conquered cities. He crossed the room in 4 strides. The crowd parted like water. And then, before every witness in that filthy tavern, the Alpha King lifted her hand to his lips and spoke 3 words that would change everything. "Mine, you're mine." So now everyone is wondering, why would the most powerful alpha in the realm claim a common waitress as his queen? 3 hours earlier, Vera's biggest problem had been the drunk at table 6 who kept calling her sweetheart in a way that made her skin crawl. Now she was being carried through the night on the back of a wolf the size of a warhorse, her fingers buried in fur so black it swallowed starlight, and she still wasn't entirely sure she hadn't fallen and hit her head on the tavern floor. But the cold was real. The thunder of massive paws against frozen ground was real, and the strange, impossible heat flooding her veins every time the wolf's scent reached her. Pine and smoke, and something darker, something that made her wolf stir for the first time in years. That was real too. Her wolf, the one she'd buried so deep she'd almost forgotten it existed. Vera pressed her face against the alpha's back and tried to remember how to breathe. She was 23 years old. Her father had vanished before she was born. Just another drifter passing through, her mother had said. And then her mother had died when Vera was 12, taken by a sickness that a healer could have cured if they'd had the coin. The tavern owner, Drenna, had taken her in afterward, worked her hard, but never hit her. That was the best she'd known. She'd presented as a wolf at 15, late and weak and barely noticeable. Her shift was slow, painful, and produced a wolf so small that she'd stopped doing it altogether. No pack had ever wanted her. No alpha had ever looked at her twice, and now the Alpha King had declared her his mate in front of 40 witnesses. The wolf beneath her slowed. Vera lifted her head. The palace of Valdros rose against the night sky like a mountain made of black glass and silver flame. It was beautiful and terrible, and so far beyond anything she'd ever imagined that she laughed. One sharp, broken sound that the wind stole immediately. The alpha shifted. Vera tumbled from his back as the wolf dissolved into a man. She hit the ground hard, snow soaking through her thin dress. By the time she'd scrambled to her feet, King Draveth stood before her, completely human, completely bare, and completely unashamed. Heat flooded her face. She looked anywhere but at the broad expanse of scarred muscle directly in her line of sight. "Your Majesty," a guard called, running forward with a cloak. "We weren't expecting—" "Prepare the Queen's chambers. She sleeps in the royal wing tonight." Queen's chambers. Vera's head snapped up. I can't be." Draveth turned. Those golden eyes found hers, and something in his expression made her voice die. He looked at her like she was the answer to a question he'd stopped asking. "You are," he said simply. "You will be." "But why?" "You don't know me. I'm nobody." "You are my mate." The word hit her chest like a physical blow. "That's impossible. I would have felt—" You did feel it. He stepped closer. The moment I walked through that door, something in you woke up. I watched it happen. She shook her head, but he was right. She'd felt the stirring, the heat, the way her long, dormant wolf had suddenly surged against her ribs. I'm nobody, she said again. Draveth lifted one hand. His fingers hovered near her jaw, not quite touching. Then we have something in common, he said quietly, because until I scented you tonight, I believed I was no one worth saving either. Before she could respond, a woman appeared at the palace doors. Tall, elegant, wrapped in white fur. Her face was beautiful, sharp and cold as winter itself. Draveth. The woman's voice could have frozen fire. What is this? The king's expression shuddered instantly. Every trace of vulnerability vanished. Saraphene. Meet my queen. The woman's ice-blue eyes moved to Vera, traveled from her wet hair to her worn boots, and her lip curled. Your queen, she repeated flatly. This tavern girl is your queen. She is my mate. You have a betrothed. You have me. Draveth said nothing. His silence was answer enough. Saraphene's gaze swung to Vera with the force of a blade. Enjoy it while it lasts, she whispered, soft enough that only Vera could hear. Because I promise you, it won't. Then she vanished into the palace. Vera stood in the snow, shivering, and wondered what she had just walked into. Draveth had stopped believing in fate the night his father died. He'd been 17. Old enough to understand that the world wasn't built on hope and destiny. It was built on blood and power and the willingness to become something others feared. So he'd become fear itself. 20 years of war. 20 years of conquest. He'd united the northern packs under one crown, crushed rebellions before they could spark, and built an empire so vast that maps had to be redrawn 3 times. His enemies called him the Black Wolf. His allies called him nothing at all, because allies implied equality, and no one was his equal. And through all of it, he'd never scented his mate. He'd stopped expecting to. Some wolves were simply made for loneliness. Draveth had accepted this by burying the hope so deep it couldn't hurt him. Until tonight. Until her. Draveth stood at the window of his chambers, staring at nothing, her scent still flooding his senses. Pine and honey and something wild underneath. His wolf was pacing, agitated, desperate. Mate. Ours. Go back. Claim her properly. He pressed his palm flat against the cold stone wall and forced the voice down. The door opened behind him. He didn't turn. You've made quite the entrance, said Lord Vasek, his chief advisor, the only man in the palace unafraid to speak honestly. I wasn't planning to. A bar waitress, Draveth. Really. She's my mate. Silence. Then. Are you certain? I've never been more certain of anything. Vasek exhaled slowly. Then you know what this means. Saraphene's family controls the southern passes. The alliance. The alliance was built on a betrothal I never wanted. Want has nothing to do with politics. It does now. Vasek studied him. You're going to make enemies. I have enemies. More of them, then. Saraphene won't go quietly. Her brother commands 3,000 soldiers. Then the court will learn what happens when they touch what's mine. The words came out darker than intended. His wolf was too close to the surface. Vasek moved toward the door, then paused. Draveth, I've known you since you were a boy. I've never seen you look at anything the way you looked at that girl. Whatever this is, don't destroy it. You may not get another chance. He left before Draveth could respond. Alone in the dark, the Alpha King let himself feel it. The terror, the hope, the desperate wanting he'd buried for so long. But the thing he couldn't stop thinking about was the look in Saraphene's eyes when she'd seen Vera. Not anger. Not jealousy. Calculation. Saraphene was already planning something, And if she hurt Vera, if anyone hurt Vera, Draveth would burn this kingdom to ash and rebuild it on their bones. Vera woke to silk sheets and a ceiling painted with stars. For 3 full breaths, she didn't move. The bed was impossibly soft. Sunlight streamed through windows larger than the entire room she'd slept in at the Hollow Stag. Then memory crashed back, and she sat up so fast her vision spotted. "You're awake." A woman's voice, warm and gentle. "Good." I was starting to worry. A woman sat in a chair near the window, middle-aged, soft-faced, and dressed in deep green wool. "I'm Lady Mira," she said. "The king asked me to attend you." Within minutes, Vera was eating, tearing into bread and cheese with her bare hands, manners forgotten. Lady Mira simply refilled the plate and pretended not to notice the tears on Vera's cheeks. When she finally stopped, Lady Mira handed her a napkin. "The king wants you to dine with him this evening." "Dine. Privately. With the Alpha King." "I don't belong here," Vera said. "Perhaps not, but you're here nonetheless. And the king seems quite determined to keep you." "Why me?" "There's only one mate," Lady Mira said quietly. "You don't choose. It simply is." Before Vera could respond, the door opened. Saraphene swept in like winter itself. White gown, white fur, white smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Lady Mira, I'll take it from here." Lady Mira hesitated, glancing at Vera. "It's all right," Vera said, though her wolf disagreed. Hackles rising, instinct screaming danger. Lady Mira left reluctantly. The door closed. Saraphene circled Vera slowly. "Let me explain something to you. Draveth has been promised to me since we were children. My brother's army defended this palace when enemies burned at the gates. I have earned my place here." She stopped directly in front of Vera. "And you? You poured drinks." Vera's wolf wanted to cower. Instead, she lifted her chin. "I didn't ask for this." "No, but you'll pay for it anyway." Saraphene's eyes glittered. "Leave now. Return to your little tavern. I'll ensure you're not punished for wasting the king's time." Every survival instinct screamed at Vera to accept, to run, to disappear. But then she remembered the king's face last night. "Until I scented you tonight, I believed I was no one worth saving either." "No," Vera said. Saraphene's expression flickered. "I don't know why I'm here, but I won't run just because you're afraid of me." "I'm not afraid of you, bar girl." "Then why do you need me to leave?" The silence stretched. Then Saraphene smiled, cold, sharp, and dangerous. "You're going to regret this conversation, I promise you that." She left without another word. Vera stood alone, shaking, her wolf howling warnings. But she didn't run. Whatever came next, she would face it standing. The dining chamber felt too large with only 2 people in it. Vera sat across from him wearing deep blue velvet, but she held herself like she expected the fabric to bite her. She'd barely spoken since she sat down. "You're not eating," Draveth said. Vera looked at her plate. "Everything looks too beautiful to touch. It's meant to be eaten." "Easy to say when you've eaten like this your whole life." "I haven't." Vera blinked. "What?" "When I was young, my father believed comfort made wolves weak. I slept on stone floors, ate what the soldiers ate, trained until my hands bled." He wasn't sure why he was telling her this. He'd never told anyone, but she was looking at him. Really looking, and the pity he expected wasn't there. Just quiet attention. "That sounds lonely," she said. "It was efficient." "Those aren't the same thing." "No, they weren't." "Eat," he said, softer now. "Please, however you want." Vera picked up the bread with her bare hands and tore into it. Something in Draveth loosened. They ate in easier silence. Then she asked, "Why do they call you the Black Wolf?" "Because I destroyed everything in my path. Cities, armies, anyone who stood against me." Did they deserve it? Some, not all. Do you regret it? I don't know how to. I've spent so long believing it was necessary that I'm not sure where the necessity ends and I begin. Vera set down her fork. My mother used to say that regret was useless. You can't unburn a bridge, but you can build a new one, if you want to. Draveth stood, crossed to her side. Vera's breath caught. He knelt. Not because protocol demanded it. He knelt because he wanted to be level with her. I've conquered kingdoms, he said quietly. But I've never chosen anything for myself. Everything I've done has been for duty, for strategy, for survival. He took her hand. You're the first thing I've wanted. Just for me. Vera's eyes glistened. You don't know me. Then let me learn. She leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his. They stayed like that, breathing the same air, the mate bond humming between them. Okay, she whispered. Okay. 2 weeks passed, and Vera began to believe she might survive this. Lady Mira taught her how to walk, how to address nobles, and how to eat with 17 different forks. And then there was Draveth. He found her every day, sometimes for meals, sometimes for walks through frost-covered gardens, sometimes just to sit in silence while she practiced embroidery. Badly. Always badly. But he never laughed. He was teaching her to shift again. Your wolf isn't weak, he told her one afternoon. She's buried. There's a difference. Feels the same. It isn't. You stopped letting her out because it hurt. But she's still there. I can feel her. You can? She responds when I'm near. Let her out, Vera. Let me meet her. She wanted to. But the fear was old and deep. What if she's not what you expect? His expression softened. She's part of you. That's all I need her to be. Vera closed her eyes, reached down into the place where her wolf curled, small and frightened. Please, please try. Heat flooded her veins. Her bones began to shift. When she opened her eyes again, she was looking up at Draveth from much closer to the ground. Her wolf was small, barely waist-high, with silver-gray fur. Draveth smiled. A real smile, warm and unguarded. There you are, he murmured, crouching to run his fingers through her fur. Her wolf leaned into his touch and, for the first time in years, felt like she belonged. But not everything was easy. Saraphene watched them constantly, and there was something else. Something Vera couldn't name. Draveth was different in the evenings, not kinder. He was always kind to her now, but slower, more distant. Like the man she was coming to know, retreated somewhere she couldn't follow. Does he seem strange to you? She asked Lady Mira one night. In the evenings? Lady Mira's hands paused. Strange how? Colder, further away. Lady Mira was quiet for a long moment. The king has always been complicated. He carries many burdens. That's not what I mean. I know. But some questions are dangerous to ask out loud. That night, Vera watched Draveth at dinner. Watched him pour wine from a decanter only he drank from. Watched his hand tremble as he lifted the glass. Watched his eyes go flat exactly 30 minutes after he drained it. Something was very wrong. And Vera was going to find out what. The dreams were getting worse. Every night, Draveth found himself trapped in darkness, running through endless corridors, chasing something that called to him in a voice like his own, but twisted. Tonight was no different. He sat on the edge of his bed, head in his hands. His wolf was howling. Something's wrong. Something's been wrong for years. The episodes had started when he was young. The coldness, the distance, the way he sometimes felt like a passenger in his own body. His father had called it strength. His mother had called it a gift. But lately, since Vera arrived, it felt less like a gift and more like a prison. The next evening, Saraphene requested a private audience. She came at sunset, white gown glowing. "I wanted to apologize," she said, pouring wine from his decanter, "for my behavior when your mate arrived. I understand now. The mate bond is sacred." Reasonable words. Reasonable tone. So why was his wolf growling? "I'll consider it," Draveth said. She left. He stood by the window, the untouched wine warm in his hand. Vera's words echoed. "Does he seem strange to you?" He looked at the glass. The dark liquid gleamed innocently. Draveth summoned a guard. "Bring me the court physician, now." The physician arrived within minutes, a thin man named Haldern who had served since Draveth's father's time. "The wine you prepare for me. What's in it?" Haldern's face went pale. "Simply a restorative blend. Herbs for sleep." "What herbs specifically?" Haldern's eyes darted to the door. "I'm not sure I understand." Draveth moved. One moment he was standing. The next he had Haldern pinned against the wall. "What is in the wine?" "Nightwell root," Haldern gasped. "Moonsbane extract, shadow lily. Please, I was ordered." Draveth's blood turned to ice. Nightwell root suppressed the wolf spirit. Moonsbane dulled emotional bonds. Shadow lily could sever a shifter from their wolf entirely. Someone had been poisoning him for years, decades. "Who ordered this?" The door burst open. Vera stood in the doorway, chest heaving. "Draveth, stop. You're going to kill him." He looked down. Haldern was turning blue. Draveth released him. The man crumpled, gasping. "What's happening?" Vera crossed to him. "I felt you through the bond. Someone's been poisoning me for years, destroying my connection to my wolf." Vera's face went white. Behind them, Haldern scrambled toward the door. "Stop him," Draveth commanded. "Who gave you the orders?" Vera demanded, crouching beside Haldern. "Tell us now." "I can't. She'll kill me." "She?" Vera's voice sharpened. "Who?" But Draveth already knew. "Saraphene." He turned to the window. The moon hung heavy in the sky. Somewhere in this palace, the woman who had been destroying him was sipping wine and smiling. And Draveth was going to find her. Everything happened too fast. One moment, Draveth was giving orders. Guards dispatched to find Saraphene, the palace locked down. His voice was controlled, commanding. But Vera could feel him through the bond, the rage, the betrayal. "Stay here," he told her. "Stay with Lady Mira until I come for you. Promise me, Saraphene is dangerous." She nodded. He pressed his lips to her forehead and was gone. An hour passed. Then two. Vera's wolf paced, growing more agitated. "Something's coming. Lady Mira, something doesn't feel right." The door exploded inward. 3 soldiers in black armor crashed through. Saraphene's brother's men. Lady Mira screamed. One soldier struck her down. "No." Vera lunged, but hands seized her. She fought, kicked, bit, clawed. But she was small, and they were many. A familiar laugh echoed. Saraphene stepped into the room. "Draveth is currently fighting my brother's forces on the eastern wall. By the time he realizes you're gone, we'll be past the border. He knows about the poison. He'll never forgive you." "I don't want forgiveness. I want what I was promised." Saraphene's eyes burned with something like madness. 20 years I've waited. I kept him cold, isolated, dependent on that wine. And then you walked in, and he looked at you like you were the sun. She grabbed Vera's jaw. "You ruined everything, so now I'm going to ruin you." "He'll find me. The bond can be broken. There's a ritual. Old magic. By the time I'm finished, Draveth won't remember your name." "Take her," Saraphene ordered. "We leave now." The soldiers dragged Vera out. She screamed through the bond. "Find me, please." She didn't know if he heard. They rode for hours. Finally, the horse stopped. The hood was ripped away. A clearing. Ancient stones, torches. The old altars? Saraphene breathed. Perfect. She turned to her soldiers. Tie her to the center stone. Wait. A man stepped forward, tall, with Saraphene's same eyes. Her brother Corvan. You said leverage, nothing about blood magic. Plans change. This is dangerous. If you sever the mate bond, then Draveth loses his queen and half his soul. He'll be broken. Controllable. Vera's heart hammered. Please, Draveth. Hurry. They dragged her toward the altar, and somewhere in the distance, a howl. The black wolf was coming. He'd known instantly that the attack was a diversion. Draveth abandoned the battle and shifted, tearing through the palace. Her scent led to the room where he'd left her. Empty. Lady Mira unconscious. Blood on the stones. Saraphene took what's ours. He ran for hours, following the bond. It grew brighter, closer. Then her terror spiked. Please. Hurry. He howled his answer. The clearing came into view, torches, ancient stones, soldiers. And at the center, Vera bound to an altar, Saraphene standing over her with a dagger. Draveth didn't slow down. The first soldiers died before they turned. A third managed to draw his sword before Draveth's jaws closed around his arm. Kill him! Saraphene shrieked. More soldiers converged. Arrows flew. One grazed his shoulder, another buried itself in his flank. Nothing mattered except reaching Vera. Then Corvan stepped into his path and shifted into a gray wolf nearly as massive as Draveth. They collided like thunder. Jaws snapped. Claws tore. Draveth was older, more experienced. One brutal twist and Corvan collapsed, unconscious, blood matting his fur. Draveth leaped over the broken body and landed at the altar. Saraphene stood frozen, dagger raised. Don't. I'll kill her before you reach me. Draveth shifted instantly. One breath a wolf, the next a man, naked and blood-soaked. Put the knife down, Saraphene. I won't let you be happy while you what? Rot in the cage you built yourself? You were supposed to choose me. The scream tore out of her. I did everything right. Except be mine. Saraphene's face crumpled. Behind her, Vera's hands, bound in front, closed around a loose stone from the crumbling altar. She swung. The rock connected with Saraphene's temple. The woman's eyes rolled back. She crumpled. Draveth crossed to the altar and tore the ropes apart. Are you hurt? Vera threw her arms around his neck. You came. I will always come. There is nowhere I would not find you. She was crying. He was shaking. They clung to each other. I love you, Vera whispered. The words hit him like an arrow, through every wall he'd ever built. Say it again. I love you. He kissed her. Desperate, grateful, lost in her. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he said, I love you too. I think I have since the moment you didn't kneel. Vera laughed. Take me home. He shifted, lowering so she could climb onto his back. Together, they ran toward dawn. 6 months later, Vera stood on the balcony of the Queen's chambers and watched the sun rise. So much had changed. Saraphene was imprisoned, awaiting trial. Corvan had been captured and imprisoned alongside her. His wounds treated but his freedom revoked. The physician Haldern had been stripped of his position after providing a full confession under interrogation. Names, dates, doses, everything. The wolf inside Draveth was healing. It was slow. Years of damage couldn't be undone in months, but Vera saw the difference. He laughed more easily, slept more deeply. The cold distance that had plagued his evenings faded, replaced by warmth. They'd been married a month ago. Not a grand political affair, but a small ceremony in the gardens. Lady Mira had cried, fully recovered now, and fiercely protective of Vera. Lord Vasek had actually smiled. The wolves of Draveth's guard had howled their blessing to the moon. Now she was queen. You're thinking too hard. His voice came from behind her, warm and rough with sleep. How can you tell? Your shoulders get tight. Arms wrapped around her waist. Tell me. She turned to face him. I was thinking about how strange life is. 6 months ago, I was invisible, and now you're my queen, my mate. The woman who hit Saraphene with a rock and saved herself. Vera laughed. That's going to follow me forever. I plan to tell our children about it. Her heart stopped. Children? His expression softened. If you want them. Someday. She stared at him, this man who had been a nightmare to half the continent. This man who knelt before her, who loved her with a ferocity that still took her breath away. I want them, she whispered. I want everything. With you. His smile broke open like dawn. He kissed her, slow and deep and full of promise, and Vera let herself sink into it, into him, into the impossible future stretching before them. She had been invisible once. She had been nobody. But she was found now, chosen, loved, and she was never going to be invisible again.